for checking out my video. Chris here from Meditations on the Tarot. Today I wanted to talk about some of the metaphysical properties, some of the esoteric properties of incense, some of the history, its meaning and use. My whole life I've really enjoyed having incense around, lighting incense, when I'm meditating or when I'm reading a book, and also just always trying out new and different incense. And it's been neat, it's been really cool to learn about the different planetary connections to different incense and the different astrological connections to different incense, as well as the connection between different incense and different chakras. So it's really interesting how different incense will kind of create different moods. One of my favorite incense, of course, is Rosicrucian incense. This is 4 roses incense, and this is one of my favorite alchemical drawings, this little rose, and it says, the original drawing said, Dat rosa mel apubus, which means the rose gives the bees honey. And in this drawing, the bees are the alchemists, and the rose represents this Rosicrucian thought process, this philosophy, and so it could be read, the Rosicrucian philosophy gives the alchemists the honey, gives them that spiritual nourishment, because alchemy isn't just about turning lead into gold, it's about turning a base existence into a golden existence, or turning a base existence into a higher existence. What's neat about going to the local Rosicrucian meetings is that when you walk into the temple, you always smell that, rose incense, that Rosicrucian incense, and it reminds me just of how my apartment smells. So it's neat. So it's kind of like coming home, and I get a lot of compliments when people come over and what kind of incense am I using. And I'll leave a link in the description if you wanted to pick up some of that incense. I wanted to read an article to you, read a short essay, and this is called Incense, Its Meaning and Use, and this is written by Ralph M. Lewis, FRC, and this comes from a book called Insights, a collection of Rosicrucian essays into metaphysical and natural laws. And this is a great book, has a lot of really interesting short essays. And it's written by Ralph Maxwell Lewis. Here's a quick bio of him. Ralph Maxwell Lewis was born on February 14th, 1904. The son of Harvey Spencer Lewis, was the imperator of the Rosicrucian organization, the ancient mystical order Rosicrucian, Amorc, from 1939 to 1987. He is the author of a number of books regarding mysticism. Most of them are available from the Amorc. Ralph Maxwell Lewis was born in New York City. His father, Harvey Spencer Lewis, whom was the first imperator for Amorc for the North and South America, was born in New Jersey and was of Gaelic origin, being descended from Sir Robert Lewis, former American colonizers. So that's a bio of Ralph Maxwell Lewis. This is his article, Incense, Its Meaning and Use. It is essential to divide this subject into 3 principal parts. The first is the primitive and physical cause and origin of incense. The second is its religio-magical use, and finally, its mystical application. We cannot treat the latter by itself as might seem possible, for it is an outgrowth of the other 2. We may never know what the divine or cosmic purpose of limiting us to 5 empirical senses is. But when we can easily conceive why the ones which we process have been given to us, without them we would be brought into greater conflict with the world around us than we now experience. It would seem that the elements or nature of the realities of the physical world that can do us the most good or harm lie within the sphere of perception of these 5 senses. How much exists which we cannot objectively discern, we are just beginning to learn. Consequently, it is incumbent upon these physical senses to acquire for us the essentials for our existence, or rather, to make it possible for us to realize them, also to compel us to ward off what might be disastrous. Each sense has its own qualities. Thus, taste qualities are sweet, sour, and salty with various modifications of hot and cold. In addition to these qualities and modifications, the sensations of all the senses are always either pleasurable or painful, with a variation between the two extremes. It is quite true that the things that please us may be detrimental, and conversely, that which is disagreeable may be beneficial. On the whole, however, things which are gratifying contribute to our security and preservation. It is quite apparent why we enjoy sweet-smelling scents and dislike fetor. Most foul-smelling odors are from materials or substances, which may be injurious to the body internally or externally, and we are warned by the odor and our repugnance to be cautious of such things. Humans, therefore, find pleasure in agreeable scents and odors, as do most animals. Humans give little thought to the reason thereof. They merely react to their instincts and the inclination of their physical senses. It is quite understandable that humans should surround themselves with fragrant odors. In nature are to be found many aromatic substances, flowers, woods, herbs, even soils. It was only another step, when we could not easily be acquired in their natural state. These artificial ones should be compounded, and thus originated the use of incense and of perfumes. The religio-magical adoption of incense is but a logical extension of its personal use by people. Primitive religion sprang from magic. Magic is the belief in supernatural powers or forces which transcend this world, or are immanent in it, and which account for all of the phenomena that are inexplicable and often uncontrollable. Humans are also constituted by nature that they principally fear or are awe-inspired by such phenomena, and therefore apathize them. When they contribute to natural phenomena, gods and deities, their magic is merging into religion, for the latter embraces and ways and means intended to approach the gods and to plead for their intervention and assistance. Religion is never fully departed from magic, though in advanced or higher order of religion, the latter is subordinated. If, therefore, incense or sweet scents were agreeable to people, they would likewise, it was thought, be most acceptable to the gods. Conversely, if humans found some odors offensive, the gods or supernatural beings would also find them obnoxious. This reasoning is borne out by historical facts, actually known practices and customs, some of which we will relate. At ceremonial banquets among primitive tribespeople, the tables or grounds were strewn with flowers, as well as the roadway along which the religious processional must pass. Smoke was agreeable to the gods, and fires giving forth such smoke were kept continually burning throughout certain ceremonies. Further, since the dead were to enter the world of the gods, it seemed appropriate that they would be decked with flowers and their bodies anointed with scented oils, so that they would be favorably received. It is noticed that in all the primitive religions, there is a parallel drawn between God and human. This is not only anthropomorphism, the physical likeness of the human, but a similarity of human desires, habits, and customs attributed to the gods. In fact, the gods not only like, but possess pleasant odors. In one of the ancient Egyptian texts, it is stated that the goddess Isis had a most pleasant scent, which could be, upon occasion, transferred to others. If people sought to live in or create a fragrant environment by surrounding themselves with aromatic shrubs and grasses, then the gods, likewise, would seek a fragrant habitat. Most religions are paradoxical. That is, they have their heaven, Elysian fields, Valhalla, or Nirvana. These religions are almost excessive in their appeal throughout the things which please the senses, and they are therefore said to be places of great fragrance. In fact, on medieval Christian tombstones have been found inscriptions extolling the aromas of heaven, which the departed would enjoy. It likewise was an early Christian practice to anoint the bodies with fragrant oil to repel demons, who were thought to revel only in the obnoxious scents. The earliest use of aromatics was found in inscriptions of the 11th dynasty of Egypt, when King Sahara went on expedition for them through the desert of the Red Sea into the land of Punt, now known as Ethiopia, and once a state conquered by Egypt. In ancient Egypt, the deceased was prepared with the use of incense at the funerary rites. In fact, frankincense and aromatic herbs were placed in the cavities of the body, created by the removal of the organs in the process of mummification. In the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum, for example, a large oil painting executed by Dr. H. Spencer Lewis, Amorc's first imperator, depicts the preparation of the bodies for embalming. It shows one of the assistants holding the cup-like censer from which rises the smoke, which permeates the linen wrappings in which the body is to be swathed. In India, the Hindu sect of Siva burns sandalwood before the stone representing their god. In Buddhism, the offering of incense is one of the 7 steps of worship, which also include offering of flowers. In some Tibetan monasteries, especially in those which were practiced certain forms of Buddhism, incense is burned or carried upon the person continuously, because it is held that it is dreaded by the evil spirits. Incense is, therefore, one of the ingredients of the Tibetan priest's amulet box. The use of incense by the Semites was widespread. Its name among the Babylonians was kutrinu. It was made from such odorific woods as cypress, myrtle, cedar, and herbs. Its preparation and use is mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible. Herodotus, ancient Greek historian, said that 1,000 talents of frankincense, about $1 million, were offered on the great altar of the Temple of Bel of the Babylonians at every annual feast. In our Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum, in the Babylonian and Assyrian Hall, there are exhibited stone or clay contracts, tablets in fact, made between the priests at the Temple of Bel and the people to provide costly supplies, food, and delicacy. So there is no doubt about the lavish expenditures for the Temple of Bel. Isaiah chapter 65 verse 3, referring to the Babylonians, says, "A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick." Some of the Babylonian bricks from ancient temples are likewise to be seen in the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum. The transition from this religio-magical use of incense to the mystical application was not sudden. In fact, there were indications of its existence coeval with the earliest magical practices. In ancient Egypt, among certain of the mystery schools, incense was said to have strange physical properties, each ingredient having different properties, which produce varying effects upon humans. The smoke likewise was held to carry upward from the individual the words of prayer offered to the souls beyond. The god Ra was said to draw the soul of the departed upward in the smoke of the incense. In many rituals, even today, the smoke of the incense has the mystical application of an offering to God as it spirals heavenward. The Malays burn incense as an offering at shrines and saints' tombs, and it is accompanied by the invocations to the spirit of the incense. The ways and means of establishing communication with God are as numerous as the religions, which humans have invented, and as flexible as their immigration. Votary offerings to the gods, to the god or to the gods, or resorting to prayer or incantation, still left the mortal in doubt as to the god's awareness of his appeal. There was no sign, no material or physical evidence of the person's having received the attention of the supernatural forces or the deity. Sometimes among the cruder religion, theurgic practices were entered into by which the gods were compelled to epiphany, that is, bodily manifestations of their powers, to give some human assurance of their presence. The dissimilitude of the two realms, the divine and the temporal, was so apparent that humans continually feared that their efforts would never bridge it. They sought some bond, some medium by which to tie themselves, at least periodically, to this other realm and to the infinite intelligence which they conceived existed there. If gods, like humans, love beauty and agreeable things, they most certainly would be attracted to fragrant scents. These scents, rising heavenward in the smoke of the incense, would reach a congregation of the gods, or the one supreme being, depending on the religious concept. With the fragrance would go forth people's prayers and appeals to be considered by the deity. Thus, incense was used in this elementary, mystical sense to bind people to their gods. We may smile at this simplicity, and yet today in the churches of well-established and respected Christian sects, the burning of incense is symbolically used to typify prayer as our spiritual bond with the Creator. Theologians disagree as to how it found its way into the rituals of the Christian church. Some say it was first used merely as a fumigation of the church to create an agreeable odor. Most likely by the process of syncretism, it was borrowed from the so-called pagan rites which we have described. It was not in the earliest Christian rituals, and one early churchman named Lactanius agreed with the Neoplatonic writers that God neither needs nor desires incense in any form. The mystics, even centuries ago, realized that the inhalation of certain harmless burning ingredients, and particularly certain scents, affected or rather stimulated and accelerated the functions of the psychic glands. By psychic glands, we mean those glands that are governors of the flow of the psychic forces of the cosmic through the nervous system. We all know how the sensations of smell will, by the association of ideas, cause us to remember incidents or events. Further, certain scents have a psychological effect on us. They may raise our spirits, make us happy, or they may depress us and make us melancholy, or at times irritate us. We must not think that this incense was used as a drug or narcotic, for it was not. The mystics and early alchemists made a careful study of scents and their effect upon our moods and temperaments, just as music or sounds affect us emotionally. It has always been the hope and aspiration of the philosophers of old to bring all the human senses, the physical ones at least, in harmony one with the other. To them, ideal physical harmony would exist when someone would be equally agreeable to each of the five senses simultaneously. It is known that when this is done, the resulting ecstasy would facilitate attunement with the spiritual forces in and around us. It is the distraction of the physical which nails our soul to the earth, as Socrates said, according to Plato. Certain scents, when delicate in their aroma, or relaxing and seeming to quiet the body, liberate the psychical powers. They assist in meditation, and they give us a greater fortitude to meet the obstacles of the day. In churches, we know from experience, the incense seems to harmonize with the surroundings of the place, its tranquility, its beautiful music, and its solemnity. Most people do not know why. Mystics and Rosicrucians do. Rosicrucians also look upon the smoke wafting upward as a symbol, and a symbol only, of a spiritual essence residing within us, a silver cord extending from us and binding us to the cosmic. It is quite true that the cosmic attunement is not dependent upon the use of incense, nor upon the use of any material medium. To appreciate the spiritual and to make use of our bond with it, we need nothing of the beautiful. Perhaps we might succeed as well without music or the symmetry of form and a beautiful art and architecture, or without any of the aesthetic influences. But the way would be much more severe and discouraging. Since incense, like music, has proved its value to our psychic selves and functions, why not continue with its use, regardless of what primitive irrational rites may have been performed with it by the minds of centuries past? The most glorious customs often have primitive beginnings. So, that was by Ralph M. Lewis, and it's Incense, Its Meaning and Use, from the book called Insights, a collection of Rosicrucian essays into metaphysical and natural laws. So when I was talking about learning different attributions and different connections between different planets and different astrological connections to different incense. A book I found really helpful with some of those correlations is called Herbs in Magic and Alchemy, Techniques from Ancient Herbal Lore by C.L. Zalewski. C.L. Zalewski is well versed in the Western esoteric traditions and ceremonial workings of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. With her husband, she has helped continue the Golden Dawn tradition in New Zealand, where she lives. She is also affiliated with the Hermetic Society of the Golden Dawn, based in Santa Monica, California. Herbs and Magic and Alchemy highlights the importance of harmonious astrological times for different magical practices and provides revealing insights on how we can all develop clairvoyant contact with nature. And she has some really interesting, this whole book is just different correlations, just different connections between different herbs and different planets, different astrological symbols. And you can look up different incense. And so here she gives a explanation of how to make incense. She says, take dried powdered herb or herbs, add chosen oil or oils, and enough gum tragacanth to give a fairly stiff paste. Form into cones and dry in a warm place. A mixture left to stand overnight takes better. Be sparing with oils. And so she just talks about, and then there are other ways here and different examples and different colors that you can use for your incense, and different ceremonial uses for incense. So this is a really great book, Herbs in Magic and Alchemy. And when we're talking about astrological connections to different scents and different herbs and different incense, another really good book that talks about these connections is The 3 Books of Occult Philosophy or Magic by Henry Cornelius Agrippa. It's a really good book where it talks about these different connections. And again, I'll post a link in the description where you can pick up these different incense. I appreciate you watching my video. You know, YouTube is kind of interesting, and I don't think it's a perfect medium, but I wanted to talk for just a second about what YouTube means to me. I don't really watch TV, and instead I watch YouTube. And watching all the different people on YouTube has really inspired me. It's inspired me to create some of my own content. Watching all the great videos from these different content creators and all these great topics, I'm learning so much, and all these great YouTube videos have inspired me to create my own content, and I hope someday that my content on YouTube will inspire someone else to create some content on YouTube. And just and not necessarily that it be YouTube, but it be a platform where we can share our content, creator-owned content. So if you want to like, share, and subscribe, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate some help getting my channel off the ground. If you know of a forum where you could post one of my videos, that'd be really great. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. It's Chris Hagner. It's KRISHAGNER. So thanks again for checking out my video. Hope you have a good day. Peace profound and LVX.